Okay, so we're just going to start off just by you just kind of introducing yourself, talking about your background. I love to hear about your villain origin story as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so my name is Rua Williams. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Applied and Creative Computing. I research disability, technology, and politics. Now what do you want? I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. Maybe just talk about your villain origin story that you talked about in your book.
So one day, no, I'm gonna not do one day. I had begun working with a group of people at a computer vision technology startup company, and I was there as the quote unquote artist because I had a background in 3D modeling and animation and game design. And it was like day 5. Like we had not even really started. And I was sitting there at my desk and my partner sent me a message with a link to an article about automated vehicles and how in the future an automated vehicle would decide who lives or dies in a crash. Now this was like 2012. So the future is now. Like now the cars are already deciding who lives or dies in a crash. But at the time it was like, ooh, spooky. And I said out loud, this is why engineers need ethics. And one of the co-founders sitting next to me said, ethics is stupid. And this man has a whole ass PhD. And I'm like, wait, what? and he was just like, they made us take an ethics class and it was boring. And that's when I knew that we were in the bad place.
This is the bad place.
This is the bad place. And you know, that was before you could even say that because the show wasn't out. But like it was like, oh no. Chuckles. Ralph Wiggum meme. I'm in danger. Like
yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, these people are broken.
Yeah. So that was that kind of like your start to where you wanted to kind of focus in on technological justice?
I don't know. I could say that was the moment when I definitely realized that there was probably a really deep problem. And at the time I had been working in video game companies for years. And so I knew like those boys were also broken, but for different reasons, kind of, well, not the same reason. And I just, at that time, I was just trying to survive. I wasn't really thinking about anything. I didn't think I was going to go to school to get a PhD or anything. I was just like, wow. So I'm going to go make pretty things now and not talk to you.
Yeah. Like you're like, I'm just going to design and just pretend like I didn't just do that and not think about that too hard.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you today because I think you're just a reply guy and I'm bored. I got to do something else. I'm go over here now.
Yeah. So, how would you define generative AI?
Okay, well, I have the answer that comes from my heart, and then I have like the real answer.
I want both.
Yeah,
give me both.
So my first answer is that generative AI is the mid regurgitation engine, and it's just a big old repository of stolen shit, coded and classified by exploited people that have been paid shit and put through hell to. And just like, it's basically the wage suppression engine and I'm sick of it. It's gross.
The wage suppression engine.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, like that's why the hype is so strong. And that's why every company wants it, is because they see it and they know that whether or not it works, it will suppress wages. So if it quote unquote works, right, they can replace laborers. If it doesn't work, and they've done this already, they'll fire people, claim to be replacing them with AI, and then rehire the same people at lower wages to fix the shit the AI broke. So, yeah.
Could you give me an example of that?
Just there have been numerous articles covering some of the labor market in the tech industry, showing, and people will testify like, I was fired, and then a few months later, the same company asked to rehire me, but it would be at a lower wage, and my work would not be the same. It would be fixing the errors of AI rather than producing the work myself.
Yeah. So now it seems as if I read this article, and I was originally going to include it in my project, and maybe I'll mention it slightly, but it was in the Harvard Business Review, and they were talking about it was basically advocating for AI as a coworker, like saying how we could hire people to be the sort of I don't know, like the link between human and robot, and to make sure that they don't have any, they literally use the word prejudice against the AI.
This has actually been a topic of research for a long time now already. This idea that you have issues of human machine teaming in the workplace, and that there's largely a human factor of trust. And so this happens already in lots of manufacturing places, but anywhere where you have an automated system working alongside people, you have an issue of trust, where the person that is working with that machine either believes that it will do things right most of the time, or is constantly scrutinizing it. And what's weird about a lot of the research is that they seem to want to make people trust the robots more, when skepticism is actually a healthier way to work with them. And there were some very bizarre, because a lot of business research is super wacky, because they still believe that like personality tests are valid ways of assessing who should be a good employee. But they've actually included things like your trustingness towards automated systems as a part of your personality, and like basically whether or not they would hire you based on if you would like Daddy Robot. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I can tell you're a little bit critical about generative AI. A little bit.
So I'll give you my least biased definition of generative AI, which it is in, well, I could actually just find the one that I use in talks and then read it to you, which might be better, because if I go off the cuff, I'll probably just wind back up in, and I hate Sam Altman. But I
was actually just about to ask you, what would you say if Sam Altman was sitting across from you right now?
I would probably just vomit. I don't think no thank you. I think if I ever actually wound up in the same space as him, I would consider myself to have failed at something.
Oh, what if it's to like confront him? What if it's a confrontation?
Unless I'm actually hired to like punch him in the face, I don't see any point.
Wow.
I don't see any point. There's no confronting him. You know, this isn't, he doesn't have any values of his own other than accruing capital. There was a very good article that just came out about him, where they interviewed a number of his like coworkers and acquaintances and like peers, not just people who work for him, like people that work with him and even invest in him. And they're like, yeah, he just says whatever it takes.
That
he just says whatever you want to hear, just like the AI does.
Maybe he's AI.
Yeah, well, AI is people, so.
A good point.
I can find this. There it is. So my vanilla milquetoast definition of AI is, and this is generally, so not just limited to generative AI, but my milquetoast definition of AI is that it's sets of decision trees, logical rule sets, and statistical methods applied to large data sets to make an inference or guess about a current condition. In the case of generative AI, what they are doing is making a guess about the next logical token. And a token in this case means either like words or strings of words or pixels, areas of pixels. And the way that I like to explain this to people is, if you remember in the earlier days of the generative images, you would get a lot of people with too many fingers and too many teeth. Well, statistically, what's the most likely thing to be next to a finger? Another finger. So for a while, people were struggling with figuring out how to get it to do both a macro and micro view to figure out how many fingers to draw. And they've gotten better at that, but like, at what cost?
Yeah. So, in what ways are LLMs and Gen AI beneficial in academia, and in what ways are they harmful?
I want to be more charitable than I am about this. And I think that the major problem is that, like, the concept of these tools is one thing, and then the reality of how they've been made and deployed is another. And we have to work within the reality, right? So I just don't think that it's acceptable to wholesale embed this absolutely evil technology into everything that we do. And when I say that it's evil, I don't mean that the concept of some sort of generative text engine is evil. I mean the way that we built this one is. And there's just no excuse for it. But what I do think the benefits of our current technologies is that they show us how broken education is. So all of the panic and the problems that we have had with the creation of these tools and how they might disrupt education really just show us that education was broken already. The fact that students can even use these tools as much as they do to get by is evidence that we have been doing this wrong for a while. The fact that they feel that they need to use these tools, there's a desperation in a lot of the use that I see. And that desperation comes from a cruelty and capriciousness of education. And so that's the benefit of it for me, that I think it might show us that we need to change. But as far as actually benefiting anybody's education, all of the science tells us it doesn't. It makes people less capable. And I've even had students reflect, because I've often had an assignment in my class where I present them with a few readings about, the labor exploitation, the water use, the impacts of these tools on people's mental health, and also just a more like generic discussion of what kinds of use constitute plagiarism and what kinds don't, And I ask them to reflect on, I'm not going to police their AI use in the classroom. I do not have time for it, and it cannot be done. There are no tools that accurately tell us whether or not this thing was made a certain way, and I don't have time. If that's how you want to do your education, you're going to get a mid-education, and you're going to get mid-grades, and it's not my business. Like, I don't care. But I do care, but I'm not going to waste my time on it. So I asked them to reflect because, I'm not trying to punish them. They don't have to lie to me. Right. Some of them don't know that yet. Some of them don't believe it. A lot of students think that I'm like trapping them because they've never met anybody that means what they say. But they'll tell me, I've started to become afraid when I use these tools. I feel like I'm losing myself. And I have heard that multiple times. And that is deeply unsettling, but also very unsurprising.
Is that what you mean when you say the effect on the mental health?
Yes. So, there's several aspects to this. We have this entire phenomenon that people are calling chatbot psychosis, which is where, because of the sycophantic nature of these chatbots, they can really reinforce delusions and trigger kinds of like paranoia and mania in people, even people that weren't otherwise diagnosed with a condition. And I wouldn't necessarily say that they're like causing those conditions, but I think the person was probably already at risk, or possibly already kind of there, but didn't have something to catalyze them. And this has like led to things like people totally destroying their marriages or destroying their careers or losing all their money. Real like conspiracy theory stuff without any of the network of the conspiracy theorists. They're just like their own little conspiracy theorist. And so that's one issue that has happened. And we have seen people lean on these generative models for mental health advice. And that, again, is, of course they are, because you can't afford or find a therapist.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like, yeah, of course that's happening. Because, like, and you can't blame the person for it because they literally could not find one if they wanted to be honest.
Yeah. I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like on TikTok, people talking about their personal therapist.
Yeah.
AI.
And I noticed somebody that I cared about for a while doing this, and it really bothered me because on the surface, the things that they would report back were like super positive. Like, oh, it was really hyping them up and like boosting, you know what I mean? It was like you're like you're like wingman for yourself. Like, but it was like there was something so shallow about it that it was like, this is just like live, laugh, love shit, and it's not going to help you. Like, this is really not. I'm very disturbed. And then we have seen the deaths. There have actually been people, high profile cases, and probably dozens, if not hundreds, of ones we haven't ever heard of, where people have ended their lives, and ChatGPT in particular, or some of these other chatbots, have been, the logs show very inappropriate responses that absolutely led to the escalation of this. Mm-hmm. But also just, technically, right? If you have begun to rely on this, you'll stop talking to other people. So nobody would know. If the only person that you'll talk to is this little chatbot, nobody can catch you before you fall. Even they've talked about integrating these things into the hotlines, which is I don't even, they've done it, and I'm very upset by it. And the truth is, like, it's good, I guess, that these things can't reach their hands out of the machine and touch you. But also, like, no, that you need actual people.
Yeah.
You need people.
I agree. So in what ways could you possibly see AI being beneficial, if you can, for academia, academia specifically?
So we really have to start getting more specific when we say the word AI. And
Gen AI.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're only talking about generative AI, I don't know. So if you create and train your own small language model, right, there are actually a lot of interesting things that you can do. And then one of the things about that too is that you're very unlikely to do that without already being a subject matter expert, right? And so when you are already have some kind of expertise in the topic area, that's when you can have the healthy skepticism to notice when it's wrong, or when it's maybe overstating things, or when it's misreferencing, etc. But it's really the large language model aspect that is the problem. Like, this is just a word soup of nonsense. You've got, theoretically equal weight between the academic database and, 4chan. And it's like, that's not useful. And obviously, before somebody comes at me, it's not exactly equal, but it's still a problem. But like, the concept of being able to aggregate a data set of useful information, and then make the probabilistic associations such that you can pull out certain facets of the information might be useful. And actually learning how to do that is obviously a skill, but just giving all of your data to Sam Altman is not it.
Mm-mm. So so you've probably seen, I assume that you do, because I know that you and Dr. Weinberg are associated, and she sent me Let Them Eat Large Language Models. That have you read that about CSU?
I don't think I have read that one, but yes, I do know about it, but I don't think that I sometimes don't waste my time.
Yeah, so it was talking about the CSU's integration, not integration, but their contract with OpenAI to include it in their, to have free use of it, where it's kind of like a ransom.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like we are doing this to protect our data as well, because if the free uses your data, but if you pay for it, it doesn't. It's like, okay, so that's like basically
it's
ransom.
Yeah.
So how would you feel if Purdue decided to do a contract like that with
They
OpenAI? They
have.
have?
So I'll tell a story. This is for an assignment, right?
You can tell all the stories you want.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
All right. So my book, Disabling Intelligences, was chosen by Purdue Today to be featured on their little newsletter, which is cool because then like everybody in the system sees your little book in their email if they open it, which most people will open it and then immediately delete it. But my face would still be there. But that's fine. A week later, they said, we're sorry. Actually, we've been informed that the administration has to approve all AI-related books going forward.
What'd that mean?
Well, what it means is a week later, we had the announcement of the Google deal.
I'm not aware of the Google deal.
So we have a big deal coming up with Google, and I don't know all of the details off the top of my head, but what I do know is that yesterday I got an email saying that there is a pool of Pro Gemini licenses which you can apply to, and that basically this is part of the deal, like that some of the researchers get free Pro Gemini access.
Oh. Okay, so we're down that path already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nom 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 nom.
Yeah. So how do you think there's anything that can be done about this?
I mean, there's multiple different kinds of things that can be done about this. But the first thing to remember about Purdue is that there is no shared governance. So what that means is that in universities traditionally, there has been this tradition of shared governance, which means that the faculty have a kind of almost anarchistic, but we can't say that, have had control over or strong influence over how things get done at the university level, which means that like if enough faculty say no to something, then the answer is no. We don't have that. It was literally written in the charter of Purdue that we do not have shared governance. We have an advisory capacity only. And so everything that the university faculty senate does is basically release memos like, maybe you should not do that. And then everybody goes, okay.
You just have to take it.
Yeah. It's like, thank you for your feedback. Bye-bye.
Here's your Qualtrics survey.
Yeah, like it's not authentic in that way. And that in general, right, many of the states in the United States, and Indiana is one of them, are very anti-union and have laws on the books to prevent any kind of unionization. So any kinds of the mass labor power that you could organize to actually make the institution make a different choice is not, it's not actually that it's not possible, but that the laws are de-incentivizing. So like you can still unionize, but the problem is the law makes fewer people feel brave.
Yeah, there's a lot more at risk.
They can't actually stop you from unionizing, but they do this counterinsurgency that makes it harder for you to get people to trust that it's possible. Mm-hmm. So it's like a psyop, and it's very effective. So that's kind of the that's the constraint, right? But that doesn't mean hopelessness. And so, one of the strongest things anybody can do is individual acts of refusal are possible, and collectively multiple individual acts of refusal is basically like unionizing without saying it. So I have never used these tools. There are several studies that people have asked me to do that I can't do because they require me to interact with these tools, and I cannot do it. It makes me feel physically ill, and I worry that people interpret me as personally judging them for their behavior. And I don't. I try to be very clear about this. The reason most people use these tools is out of a desperation of a broken society.
Yeah.
So, there are absolutely some people that I'm judging, but they also have the power to make different choices, and they're silly, silly little boys.
Yeah.
Anyway, but students don't have to use it, right? And here's the problem: is sometimes you get an assignment where they're actually asking you to use it, and I know that that's happening now.
It is.
And I believe that students should be allowed to say, I do not want to do this assignment, and I will write a reflection on why I believe it is not necessary for me to do this assignment or something. Yeah. And then, or, you do the assignment and you are extremely critical about it. I think a lot of students worry that if they critique the assignment in the assignment, that the professor will punish them in the grade. And that is something that is possible, but most won't do that.
I know I remember kind of having to do stuff with this whenever I was in the class, but I'm in a research lab and the PI teaches a quantitative analysis class. And he, for their final project for this semester's class, they have to essentially recreate, find a way with ChatGPT to make a cyclic voltammogram.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
See, here's the thing, forcing people to use the quote unquote free / actually invasive tools does not actually make sense if you're trying to talk about preparing you for the workforce. Whereas doing something like showing somebody how to make their own specialized LLM with a very small, like a tight data set with a tight scope, that's education.
Mm. Yeah.
And instead of just being just make ChatGPT do it, is what, you're wasting so much water. I don't understand what the point of this is.
Yeah, and on that subject of preparing for the workforce with AI, do you believe in the AI future, or is this a self-fulfilling prophecy? We'll just start with that.
So it's definitely a bubble in the sense that it is one of those too big to fail stories where, a bunch of people put their money into this and now they have to sell it. People have to believe that it's going to be big. Otherwise, a lot of people lose a lot of money. Those people would probably still be fine if all the money disappeared tomorrow, but they don't know how to live like a normal person. And so this is where you get into trouble with people who use the fact that we don't ever really state what we mean when we say AI to trick you. And they're like, are you saying that these tools won't help the future? And I'm like, okay. Or, are you saying that these medical applications shouldn't be made? I'm like, well, some of them are very dangerous, but anyway, it's just it's a mess to even have the argument. But what I do think is that these chatbots, these generative models that are massive, that are made from predatory data, are not going to get us anywhere. And that bubble will pop and it will be uncomfortable for everyone because that's what happens when bubbles pop. But you can see it, Sora was taken offline. So Sora is the OpenAI's video generator. They figured that it was literally not profitable to even do the thing where you give it away for free and then entrap people. They were just they just turned it off.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's what you mean by the bubble being popped. Eventually they're going to realize that this isn't profitable.
Yeah. So what happens when an economic bubble pops is that it's finally revealed that whatever gambit it was is not working. And then the stocks of that particular flavor tank, and then all the investment is lost. And people lose their jobs, people lose their houses, blah, 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 blah. The housing bubble was similar in that it was a bunch of predatory loans out there, and eventually the weight of capitalism crushed the way that it works, and then all of these loans went defunct, and it ruined banks, it ruined people's lives. There's actually research about how it disproportionately robbed Black and brown people of the generational wealth that they did have. And some other bubbles, the .com bubble, so that was in the 90s, and that was where everything had to have a website and nobody really knew why. That popped. It was just selling these fake things. It's the website was the product, but the product was nothing. Okay, so the chatbot is the product, but the chatbot is nothing.
Gotcha. I wish I could. I wish I could go into this so much more, but we only have 24 minutes, so I got to keep things moving. But so that being said, how do you picture AI's role in academia in the future?
I sincerely hope that we begin to get more specific about what we mean and to, reinvest, for lack of a better word, our attention into signal processing, computer vision, data classification, all of these things that actually make quote unquote smart technology work, but to also pay attention to the numerous critiques and problems that those technologies have had. Right. So like the infamous kinds of machine learning cautionary tales, like misidentification of Black people, or misidentification of, like, the car could tell what a person on a bike was, but it couldn't tell what a person walking a bike was. Like all of the ways that we have trained models with a sort of hegemonic ideal of a norm in mind, if we could break that problem, right, that would be a very interesting place to start from, to see what we can do next with these tools, and get very specific about making tightly scoped generative models if we must, but I would like to just see more specificity and intention.
So smaller language models is what you want to see.
Yeah, just more intentional, thoughtful, tightly scoped use cases instead of just trying to create the one engine to rule them all. Like,
yeah, I see what you mean. So what are your I feel like this is neck breaking here, but what are your thoughts on AI perpetuating a tech oligarchy?
So AI is not doing anything. It's all people.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's more that the tech oligarchy perpetuates AI. The tech oligarchy has figured out that this is a useful tool for controlling people and controlling capital and controlling narrative. And that sounds like, whenever I talk about this stuff, I feel like Charlie from Always Sunny with like the post office sketch where he's got the red threads going between all the papers. Yeah. And like when you say things like tech oligarchy, you think people are just like, well, put on your tinfoil hat. And I'm like, no, like literally we have a bunch of tech moguls with like $1 bazillion, and they're making all of these decisions that the rest of us have to live with.
And participating in the government.
Yeah. Running around the stage with a chainsaw on ketamine.
I don't know about that example.
That's Musk.
He did that?
Yeah.
Oh. I did not know that. I'm excited to look that up
Just
later.
look up Elon Musk chainsaw and then ketamine. We don't know that he was on ketamine at the same time, but he's definitely anyway, it doesn't matter. It's really that, like I said at the beginning, this is a wage suppression engine, and this is the function of late stage capitalism, is to accrue all of the wealth and to have a desperate class.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you really see when we talk about the erosion of the middle class. What we're really talking about is the desperation of the middle class. Like the people that have, like me, I have a very nice seeming house and I make a decent salary and I should be fine, but I am one disaster away from losing that house. And that's because it's impossible to save anything because childcare costs me like $20,000 a year. Like this is like the desperate, that's the function of this, is to create desperation such that you can get people to do anything. This is like when you have anti-unionizing, it's because there are desperate people who will take the job under abusive circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So
you kind of already did implicitly, but just for the sake of, I want you to explain it whenever I bring it up in my podcast. Could you explicitly explain enshitification?
So enshitification is a concept by Cory Doctorow. And what this concept is meant to describe is the way that companies will specifically release a product for free to sort of entrap the users. So you release a product for free, you drive out the competition, and then you start charging. And then you start pulling back investment in the product such that it gets worse and worse. This is enshitification. So some examples would be, you have Netflix, right? That was very cheap for CD rentals or DVD rentals, rental of media. And then they had the streaming service was free, and then they drove out all of the rental companies. They took a big chunk out of cable television, and then they started raising prices, and then they used to want you to share your logins to capture the market. And now they've got all these tools to make sure you don't share your logins across even families.
Yep.
And they pull back and pull back and pull back and squeeze more and more money for less and less effort. And that's enshitification. Some people kind of, because it's such a memeable word, they just take it to mean, making bad products, but it's specifically the aspect of making it the only product and then making it suck.
Okay, it's very helpful that you said that, because the way that you define it, because the way, whenever I read the the CSU thing written by the faculty, they said that Gen AI threatens the critical principles of originality, academic freedom, creativity, and critical thinking in its use, while playing into dynamics that favor the concentration of wealth and power into the already wealthy and powerful few, a process coined as enshitification.
Yeah, so I mean that's an aspect of it, right? So if you proliferate a service, capture the market, and then begin squeezing, right? Charging more for less, that accrues capital, right? That's the reason why enshitification happens, is because of this obsession with maximizing profit. And this idea that we can trick and entrap the market, and that there's nothing wrong with that. Because any way of acquiring money is fine.
So then how would you say that AI is enshittifying?
So you can see,
or open AI. I'm sorry, I need to start being more specific.
Open AI, generative AI, because there's open AI, there's Gemini, there's Claude, there's they're all out here doing pretty much the same things. So you can see the enshitification generated by AI in a lot of different ways. So you can no longer do a Google search. The mechanisms of enshitification by AI, I think, are slightly different in that it's not just about releasing and capturing a market and then making that thing worse and worse, which is happening. For example, Gemini now charges for more than 20 prompts a day. So they're starting that process and then they're talking about adding advertisements to ChatGPT, which is nightmare fuel. And all of these things that's part of enshitification. But the way that it has also been adopted en masse by every other product you can think of, right? That there is no longer any product that isn't and we added AI to it. It is literally the .com bubble of and we have a website. What are the, and so if you search, you've got not only the AI overview, which you can turn off in some browsers, but you've got, it has affected the original search, which was, and that had been, Google had been eroding that on its own for a while. They made a very good technology, and then they let advertising revenue break the way it worked.
Yeah, when they started moving sponsors up to the top. That is something that has bothered me. I don't think there's any way you can turn it off. I think there's extensions to where it doesn't show it, but it's still doing the AI searching. So if your plan is to try and reduce your water use, you can't do it.
It's very frustrating. You can't opt out of you can't interact with these tools without being a part of the problem, even if you're not consuming the part of it that's the problem.
Yeah. It's very concerning. What would you say are some common misconceptions about generative AI?
One of the common misconceptions is that it's thinking, that anything that it does can remotely be called cognition. And this includes they'll talk about but no, we've shown it reasoning. And what they mean by that is they've prompted it to break down the process by which it gets to an answer, which is just another pantomime of an answer. So just because you broke it down into smaller pieces doesn't mean it's not still a bullshit engine, right? So this idea that it is thinking, it is literally just grabbing associations, and associations are not always correct, right? That's how bias works. Or the idea that it is pulling out the idea that it's going to be the most right because it has access to everything and is therefore going to pull out the most common response would somehow be the right response.
Mm-hmm. The way that I've kind of looked at it, and I'd love to hear your critique on the way I've been thinking about it, is that I feel like it kind of just encourages that there is one way to think, and just the idea that intelligence is there's no nuance to intelligence, and I feel like intelligence is just something so purely human, and it I just feel like it kind of perpetuates ideas of, from whoever's controlling it, of what intelligence really is.
Yeah, we've seen some research on the way that it is homogenizing people's speech. So even when they're not using the chatbot to produce their speech, they've been so used to speaking to and reading it that they are now writing that way on their own, which is that's common. If you read a bunch of books by a certain author, you're going to start writing like that author a little bit. When I'm in a Facebook group of people from England, I write different words than when I'm in a Facebook group of people from the United States. But it's doing this homogenization of people's writing at a large scale. And that is a homogenization of thought. Now, some people are using this because they know that they get more responses from other people when they write in this really normative way. And that's also frightening, because we should be breaking down the ways that people refuse to engage with difference rather than just making everybody the same in order to quote unquote fix the problem. And then, yes, this obsession with, I think a lot of that desperation in the use comes from I must be the smartest, or I must be as smart as I can be, and I'm not good enough by myself, so I need this robot to help me appear smart. I gotta do this because I'm not good enough by myself.
Mm. And then that kind of plays into I had a transition there and I totally lost it. I had a transition there, but I wanted to talk about how you mentioned in Disabling Intelligences about how you have had students, neurodivergent students, who have been flagged for it being AI. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is really frustrating. And this is, so one of the things that happens is that we don't have reliable tools for detecting AI. And so a lot of people are just running off of vibes and suspicion. And it is not actually accurate that most neurodivergent people speak like AI speaks. And that's true because so many neurodivergent people are using it to change the way they speak so that they get respect. So obviously it's not that the robot speaks like autistic people. But what happens is when you're suspicious and you don't actually know what you're doing, then the function of suspicion is to identify a difference. And so the false accusations have been largely against neurodivergent people, or people for whom English is a second language, or even people who are absolutely fluent in English, but it's just international English, So there was this hilarious tweet about saying, if you see a paper that has the word delve in it, it's absolutely AI. And then all of these people from Nigeria were like, excuse me? It's all of my Indian students were like, what?
I've never used the word delve. What does delve mean?
Delve is like to
dive
into. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then that's funny because like I have used the word delve, but like it's one of those things where like if you are an obsessive like reader of like, you know, certain kinds of literature, like that word is going to come up because authors are always looking for synonyms for shit. Mm-hmm. So like that's like the thing is like this assumption that certain words can be tied to AI is big yikes.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna delve into that some more. I think I have got just about everything. Was there something that like you feel would be valuable, like a valuable piece of information for my purposes?
I really worry about every time we have these conversations. There is this struggle to grapple with like what is human and to try to make the case for the value of humanness. And unfortunately, most of the time when I see these arguments, the ideas come back around to excluding disabled people from the category of human. In trying to defend our own value above that of the chatbot, we are unfortunately only able to rely on our own indoctrinated values. And that is why we keep winding up hurting other people while trying to defend all of us against AI. And that's a big problem. And I don't know exactly what the solution is to that, but I really try hard personally not to grasp at anything like the essentiality of what makes us human or like any of this. It's more like I want to focus on the pragmatic material problems. It's drinking up all the water. It's causing rolling brownouts. It was built on stolen data. It's built on exploited labor. It is designed to steal our wealth. It is designed to hurt us. So I don't care so much about like, oh, but it's, you know, we're special people and that machine is not a person, because we can't even talk about it without labeling some people as not human. So I just want to focus on like the actual things that it's doing and not this like philosophical stuff. And I like philosophy, but I hate a lot of philosophers. And the way they talk about disability is one of the reasons why. We're really bad at really grasping at what it means to be human. And I think that what we should focus on is what does it mean to love each other. And using these tools and building these tools is not an act of love.
Well, that was a mic drop right there. go ahead and take this out and chop it for me. That was really good. I'm just gonna make sure I'm not forgetting anything, and I'm not gonna like kick myself and walk away from this because I didn't ask. Yeah. So if you have nothing else, then I think we're good.
I'll leave you on. We should love each other.
We should love each other. Yeah. I think that was beautiful. Okay. We are good to go.